That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is the pose he's talking about. If you were at GLC, you might know what that is. We'll talk about that in a little while. First of all, I want to talk about how it sucks to follow a great speaker. I love to follow the guy that shows all the Starbucks logos and tells you why you should be charging double for all your products and motivates you. But you follow a guy like this who speaks from the heart, and it can be hard to follow. So I hope you enjoy the presentation, and I certainly look forward to your feedback. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do, if you don't mind, is reach into the center of your table, grab the program. You'll notice my Man of Mystery pose on the cover. And you'll see in there, on the right side, on the inside right side, you'll see a note area. And what I'd love to encourage you to do, because what I'm going to talk about here is how I achieved kind of my bucket list in 1 year. So what I'd love for you to do is, as the presentation is going on, start writing your bucket list. Start writing all the things in your life that you've always wanted to do that you still haven't done. OK? Can we get everyone to do that? Is that good? All right, great. So start writing that down. And as you think of new things, just keep writing them. We're going to do something really neat with it towards the end of the presentation. So I think you're going to enjoy it. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I did. I decided for my 39th birthday I was going to take a picture every day of my life and try to create a meaningful event every single day and take a picture of that event. And there were a few things throughout my life that kind of shaped who I was and led to this idea. And I'm going to take a minute to show you what those were. So one of the first was Laura Hanchek in high school. This was the girl that I dreamed about. Does everyone have someone in high school they dreamed about and never got? Does everyone have one? So, yeah, everyone's got someone. So I dreamt about Laura Hanchek for about 3, 4, maybe 5 years. And then one day I decided I was going to give Laura Hanchek a call. Instead of just thinking Laura, I was going to get Laura. So I called Laura up one night, shaking on my bed. And I said, Laura, this is Dave Lesh, and you probably don't know who I am, but I've always thought you were beautiful. And if you are ever available for a date, I'd love to go out with you one day. And she said, well, Dave, it's very nice of you, but as you know, I'm dating Chris Gray, the captain and quarterback of the football team. and I, by the way, was no competition for the captain and quarterback of the football team. I was the antithesis of that level of popularity. So she said, I'm dating him, but thanks for the call. And if anything changes, I'll let you know. But in the meantime, I'll see you in school. And from that day on, I learned the power. At that moment, I learned the power of not having a regret in your life. I mean, it was huge. I was like 15 years old. And I was like, my God, I can go to sleep now. I'm not going to dress for her tomorrow. I'm not going to be late for class. I'm not even going to, and I never thought about her. I mean, it's 30 years later. I'm still talking about her, but I never wanted to date her again. Never wanted to date her again. It felt great. I said, my God, I've got to live a life of no regrets, because regrets absolutely suck. They weigh you down, they tire you out, and you can't even be who you are. So that was one of my life-changing moments. Another life-changing moment. Who here has read Steve Jobs' 2005 commencement address to Stanford University kids? OK. If you haven't read it, write it down on your bucket list of things to do. Steve Jobs' 2005 commencement address, Stanford University kids. It is amazing. You will love it. Please write it down, because it is truly amazing. And he talks about having been diagnosed with a terminally ill form of cancer. He had 3 months to live. The doctor told him, tie up all of your affairs, because you're going in 3 months or less. And he went home, and he thought about this, that he was dying in a few months. And a couple days later, they got a second test result back and said, oh, we made a mistake. Obviously, he didn't die in a few months. They said, you actually, rather than have this highly not treatable form of cancer, you have a very treatable form of cancer, and you'll live forever. In fact, just take this pill, and it's gone. So he said, at that point, from that point forward, he decided to live every day like it was going to be the last. Because he said, at some point, it certainly will be my last. How many of you have ever heard a story about someone who died a tragic and sudden death? How many of you have ever heard that story, and then you say, as soon as that story is over, I'm going to live every day like it's the last. I'm going to just do it. Has everyone done that at some point? at least 5, 10 times. I've done it at least 10 or 20. What happens within 20 minutes? You totally forgot it ever happened. Right? I don't know anyone that's really ever changed after that kind of story. And so the second to last thing was Thanksgiving, sitting around the table. And we're going around the table, and the 13-year-old daughter of my friend opens up this Thanksgiving box of questions. This is a threat. It looks friendly, it looks benign, looks like fun around the Thanksgiving table. But to me, when they said, Dave, it's your turn, and the card says, what do you do to improve your community? I was like, oof, I don't do much to improve my community. To me, that was a threat. I felt kind of bad. I had to make up a lie. I was embarrassed in front of my kids. I was found out. Very embarrassing. And the last one was probably the most profound for me. My wife said to me, Dave, do you realize, and I had 3 kids, she said, if you died tomorrow, my kids were 7, 6, and 3 at the time, or 4 at the time. She said, do you realize if you died tomorrow, your kids would never know who you were? Now, who here has young kids? That was a pretty deep statement, because my life revolves around these 3 kids who collectively didn't weigh 50 pounds. I was like, my God, that's true. Like, if I died tomorrow, they'd have no idea who I was. And if they knew who I was, who would they even know? Right? So that was kind of deep. And so that's what prompted this idea. And I said, fine. I'm going to create a meaningful event in my life every day. I'm going to do it to capture the person who I am, become the person I've always wanted to be, so the next time that Thanksgiving question comes around, I've got an answer. Become the person I've always wanted to be, and leave a legacy for my kids and future generations. I want them to know who I am. So I'm going to take a picture every day of this meaningful event that I do every single day, build an album, and show them who I am. What I learned really quickly was that meaningful events don't happen in your life every day. Right? I mean, if you've got a lot going on in your life, and you take vacations, and you got kids, and you got birthdays, and everything else, you're lucky to find 100 days. 100 days. Which would still leave you with 265 days that you have to do something meaningful in your life in 1 year. Who here can think of 265 meaningful things to do in a year? It's pretty tough. And what I realized really quickly was that meaningful events only happen in your life if you make them happen. If you make them happen through effort. There's some coincidence that, as you'll see, there's some coincidence, but even the coincidence, most of the time, when I trace the coincidence back, there was some effort somewhere along the line. So I realized that effort truly takes effort, and coincidence isn't always a coincidence. You have to make these things happen. And so I set out on my 39th birthday, there I was, blowing out the candles with my kids, and I set out from that point forward to take that picture every day. And I put the world's thinnest 10.1 megapixel camera in my front pocket, and I didn't take it out for a year. I slept with it by my side. I took a shower with it, sitting on the towel right outside the shower door, just in case something meaningful happened in the shower. It never did, unfortunately. I was hoping. So I'll take you through a couple of the pictures. My first picture I'm going to show you is actually, it's pretty interesting. It dates back to a birthday that I had 34 years prior, and I'll show you. So this is me as a kid bass fishing, okay? I don't know how many bass fishermen we have in the room. This is me bass fishing. I loved it. And when I was 5 years old, I asked my parents as a birthday gift for a subscription to Bass Angler Sportsman Society magazine and to be in Ray Scott's Bass Angler Sportsman Society club. At 5 or 6 years old, that's what I wanted for my birthday. And you got the patch and the sticker, and it was great. I walked around, I had this, it was really cool. And I always thought about Ray Scott. I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd meet Ray Scott. Fast forward to this 39th year of life, where I'm taking a picture every day and trying to create a meaningful event, I decide I'm going to join EO. I wasn't even in EO prior to this. Let's hear it for joining EO. So I decide I'm going to join EO. Then I'm in EO, and I get an email from the chapter administrator that we've got a Valentine's Day party coming up. Please let me know now if you want to be in the game, in the not-so-newlywed game, at the Valentine's Day party, so I can put your name in the ballot. So now I'm thinking, OK, I've got to create meaningful events. This is a no-brainer. Just put me on the stage. I'll check with my wife later. So, okay, so now I get to the Valentine's Day party. We almost didn't go because it was pouring rain. The kids had homework. I could have told you a million reasons why I wouldn't go. But again, got to create meaningful events every day. Get out there. We get out there. Sure enough, we get called on the stage. Then my wife and I, out of five couples in total, my wife and I win the Not So Newlywed Game. How's that for you? Not bad. 7 out of 8 questions correct. 7 out of 8. Those signals worked out well, baby. She's right over there. 7 out of 8 correct. And the grand prize was a trip to the Houston Roundup. So now I'm thinking, okay, I wasn't planning on going to the Houston Roundup. I got a full day of work that day. I got a meeting. I got all these things. But you know what? Got to create meaningful events in my life. Went out to Houston, went over there, and who do I see on the schedule? Ray Scott. I was like, how the hell did that happen? I haven't even bumped into this guy or seen his name in 35 years. And there he is, right on the schedule. And I look across the room, and there he is. The blue blazer, just like he always wore in the magazines, that big old patch on his shoulder. And there's Ray Scott. And I said, oh my God, I can't believe, like if Mick Jagger was there, I'd still go to Ray Scott. So I go over to Ray and I said, Ray, I've been a member of your club. I joined when I was 5 years old. And I've always wanted to meet you. And he said, well, great, let's have lunch. So Ray and I had lunch that day. It was amazing to meet Ray Scott. It was truly my childhood, he was my childhood icon, and truly a function of just effort and coincidence all coming together. But that's what happens when you do things outside your box and outside your comfort zone. Just strange things start to happen that you can't quite figure out. Certain things are a little easier to figure out. I'm at my kid's ballet class. A couple dads there, and the teacher says, I need a dad to wear a leotard and be in the kids' ballet recital. And this is, I don't know if you've ever been to a ballet recital, but like 6 generations, I mean, like everybody goes to that, right? And they fight for seats, and it's crazy. So I raise my hand. I'm not even thinking. I don't care what I've got at work that day. I know I got to create meaningful moments in my life. I just raise my hand. I'm like, I'm going. I'll be there. So I went over there. I did the rehearsals. I was the king in my kids' ballet recital. Now, that's a great picture. That's a picture that my kids will never forget. That's something that wouldn't have happened in my life if I wasn't trying to create meaningful moments every day. This is one of my favorites. Picking up your kids from school in an RV. I would have never thought about that. I'm sitting home. We had plans to go on an RV trip. And my wife says, you got to pick up the kids at 3 o'clock. And it's 2:15, and I'm looking at the RV sitting on the driveway that we're getting ready to go. It's all the sides are out, everything is plugged in, the cable TV is on. This is a half hour to close this thing up. So I'm figuring I'll just get in the minivan and go pick up the kids. But then I realize, wait a minute, got to do something meaningful today. What's it going to be? So I pack up this RV, it takes me a half hour, close this sucker up, get on the road. I pick up my neighbor whose kid carpools with us and her dog, my mother-in-law, and I get to school early so I can navigate the parking lot without too much traffic. I get out of the RV, and what's the first thing I see is a sign, student pickup, right there. I didn't put it there. Like, my God, that is just meant to be. So I took that shot, and if I tell you, when these kids came out, it was a carnival, a circus, the teachers. I had them coming in the front, going out the back. We were brewing espresso and cappuccinos in there for the teachers and the parents. You would think we set up a whole carnival stand. It was an absolute trip. And it's something my kids will never forget. The Dead Sea. So I went to the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea was about 45 degrees that day. Notice there's nobody else in the Dead Sea. So I go to the Dead Sea, and I'm looking at the Dead Sea with a bunch of other people on the shoreline. And I said, I got to make this picture just a little bit better, because this picture isn't so special. So I run back to the gift shop. I pick up a piece of swimwear from the gift shop, a little more European than I'm used to. And I run out naked in this European swimsuit, and I jump in the Dead Sea. Plenty of people along the shoreline to take my picture. One of them was nice enough to oblige and take this photo. Clearly much better than it would have been had I just taken a picture of the Dead Sea. That's a difference between trying to get the most out of every moment and not. So my wife is in New York. I'm with my wife in New York. And she says, Dave, I'm here in a hotel, and Gary Kasparov is here with me. Now, my wife, if you haven't seen her, she's over there. She has no problem meeting Gary Kasparov. She doesn't have to play chess, doesn't have to do a lot, just be herself and walk in the lobby. Gary Kasparov starts talking to her. Great. So she says, can you get over here in 5 minutes? I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I can get there, because even though I'm only 5 minutes away, if I go this way, the reality is in New York, there's so much traffic and everything else that if I go the correct way and I don't do anything illegal, I'll never get there on time. It'll take me 40 minutes. There's traffic, there's signs, everything is one way. So she says, well, Gary can only stay for another 5 or 10 minutes. So I realized, all right, I'll have to back up down a one-way street through traffic backwards. But I've played video games. I can do that. Then I've got to make an illegal U-turn and then double park outside the hotel. Is it worth it? I said, well, wait a minute. I've got a camera in my pocket. What am I doing meaningful today? What's my picture of the day? So I said, you know what? I'm going to go do it. I got a ticket. It wasn't the worst thing that ever happened to me. And there I am with Gary Kasparov that day. Absolutely fantastic. Now, I'm a chess player. I've loved chess since I was a kid. I challenged Gary, and at some point, Tim and I will play. He said, you know what? I've got 5 minutes. Just let me know whenever you have time. I'd be happy to play. So that was a lot of fun. Just a fun year. And all these things are in 1 year. Like, my life hasn't been this exciting, short of marrying my wife and having kids, hasn't been this exciting in 30 years. And all this stuff happens in this concentrated period of time. So the next morning, I go to bed that night. I'm like, what do I have tomorrow? Tomorrow, I'm flying back to Dallas. I've got an early flight. It'll be the usual stuff when I get back to Dallas. I don't know what's going to be picture-worthy that day. Let me get up and go to 9/11, pay my respects, go to the ground zero. Then I do the math. I'm like, you know what? If I do the math on this, I've got to be up at like 4 in the morning. Like, there's no way I can catch my flight and do ground zero unless I get up really early. Well, needless to say, I've got that camera in my pocket, got to do something meaningful. I said, all right, even though it's midnight now and I'll get 4 hours sleep, I'm going to go to bed, and I'm going to get up at 4 in the morning and go to ground zero. And I did. And I got to tell you, it was absolutely amazing, and I would have never gone if I wasn't trying to create something picture-worthy and meaningful that day. And if you look in the bottom right-hand corner of this picture, and you can't really see it that well, but there's 2 little red lights in the bottom right-hand corner. This is ground zero. Those 2 red lights are 10 stories below the surface of the Earth. They are the back of a subway car. That was just really, really cool to see, so I really loved it. All right. So I'm 185 pounds when I start this program. There's me at 185 pounds, sitting back drinking a beer at my buddy's house. And my friend says, Dave, you look tired, wiped out of shape, fat. You know, what's going on in your life? I said, you know what? You're right on all those things. Take a picture of me sitting here. Just take a picture of me at my worst. I'm going to make these changes ASAP, stat. Because that's what I'm doing this year. You know, I got to do meaningful things in my life. I'm going to get in shape. So he takes that picture of me. Within a couple weeks, I was on a raw diet. I lost over 20 pounds within months, very quick period of time. Started jogging. I always thought I'd make a good jogger, never really tried it. Worked out really well, got up to 4 or 5 miles a day. Got into yoga. I used to dream about that pose. I could not do this when I mean, I don't know how many people can go beyond this. I couldn't do this when I started in yoga. I couldn't do that. And I'd get in my yoga class, and I'd watch people across the room get into this pose just really, just gracefully and, like, you know, with elegance and style. And I'd be falling all over myself, and there was no way. But I said, one day I'm going to hit this pose. And then one night I'm home with my wife. I'm like, you know what? Now's the time. I'm going to hit this pose. And sure enough, nailed it. But again, I felt great. I was in the best shape of my life, and all within this concentrated period of time. So what do you do with your newfound body and your newfound fun? You find a new tailor. And I found Robert Cantu here in Dallas. This man is a genius with a needle and thread. And I said, Robert, I need some suits, and I don't want you to tailor these things on me. I want you to paint them on me. I want them painted on. So Robert says, well, put your phone in your inside pocket, in your breast pocket, so I can accommodate that. I said, I'll leave the phone home. So let's not accommodate the phone. You just paint that puppy on, and we're going to do it. So just a really fun year, getting in shape, looking and feeling my best. It was amazing. These are all pictures in my album for my kids. So I did not do this year in my life. I didn't take off work for a year, try and create these meaningful events, and go jet-setting around the world. In fact, it was the opposite. I worked harder than I ever worked in my life. So on this day, the Dow Jones closed 581 points down. My business tanked. It sucked. I had to work harder than I ever worked in my life. Within a couple weeks of this, my wife and kids were going on vacation on a Disney cruise. It's like, great, you know, my business is tanking. Our market is cut by 50%. I don't know if I can go with them. So I didn't go with them. I stayed home that week. I decided to use the time and concentration to focus on my business. So I took a picture of their 4 passports and mine kind of over here as my reminder that I wasn't going, and that's the picture in the journal. And I stayed home for 7 days, and over the course of 7 days, I knocked out the strategy memo as to how I was going to fix my business and get prepared for this new, this next 24 months, how I was going to change my business and turn it around. And 7 days later, 6 days later, this strategy memo emerged, and it was fantastic. Through that, I managed to speak at the industry's largest event, okay? So that's about 600 or 700 people in the room. We launched a software product that did phenomenally well, signed our company's biggest exclusivity distribution agreement that we've ever done, joined EO, so that was one of my forum meetings. I was already in the CEO clubs, and we launched our company's fastest growing product of all time and presented it at a big meeting. I mean, we're kicking ass. Like, this is a busy year, right? On top of that, got interviewed in a magazine. They did an article about my company. And I wrote 12 consumer technology articles that got published in another magazine. So I didn't go creating this meaningful year with nothing else to do. This was a busy year for me. Probably some of the most meaningful things, though, was that Thanksgiving basket, that Thanksgiving question, that threatening, ugly box of seemingly benign questions. Because it asked me what I was doing for the community and other people and things like that, and I had no good answer. And that's not the person who I am. I mean, inside, I really think I can do better. So I'm sitting around one day watching the news, and there's this tragedy event in Mumbai. Hundreds of people die and get hurt, and all these different things. And it was a really deep, important event. So I'm at lunch the next day, and we're talking about it, because it had just ended. And we're talking about how horrific and terrible this was, and then we order lunch. And I've got a camera in my pocket reminding me every day, Dave, step up to the plate, make something happen. So I say to these guys, I'm like, wait a minute, I got an idea. Why don't we throw a tribute to Mumbai here in Dallas? And they go, no. I mean, no, we're not doing that. So I said, no, let's think about this. I mean, I've got this camera in my pocket. I've got to do something meaningful and picture-worthy. I've never organized a tribute in my life. We're going to do this. So we all get together. We had 4 days to plan the event to use this temple where we were going to do it. So we plan the event. 4 days later, it's the night of the event, and we're all taking bets how many people are going to show up to this tribute to Mumbai that we planned. And the bets range from 50 people up to about 150, maybe 200 people. So I'm driving to the event. I've got about 2 minutes to get there, and I'm sitting in traffic. And I realize there's never any traffic at this point of the road. You know, at this time of day, it's kind of weird. So then I realize all the cars in front of me are making the left turn to get into this event, like a mile down the street. And they can't make the left turn because all the cars coming from the other way were making the right turn. So I get to the event, I couldn't believe it. We had 750 people. The room only held 750, so I don't know how many even turned away. The press was there, celebrities, the politicians, you name it. I was shocked at the difference, first of all, how impactful this was. We had people speaking at it, how impactful it was in the community. And I said, my God, if we didn't just do this at lunch that day, if we didn't just like decide to do something, this would have never happened. And that's the difference between taking a thought and converting it into action. And I realized really quickly how many things in my life I always say I want to do, and for some reason they don't get done. And why don't they get done? Because you go from a thought to inaction. And what are all the things that stop you from going from a thought to action? And it's always why I can't do it, why it's not me, why another day, why next year. But when you're trying to create a meaningful event in your life every single day, you just make it happen. There's nothing that takes your thought and tries to stop it. You're doing it. You got to get in a leotard on the stage at your kids' play? I'm in. You want to do an event like this? I'm in. This is amazing. My wife came into the kitchen the Saturday before this event, and she sees me writing the press release. She comes in pajamas, drinking a cup of coffee into the kitchen, sees me on the computer, looks over my shoulder and says, that doesn't make any sense. Get up, I'll do that. She writes the press release. After the event, about 2 or 3 days after the event, we saw online, around the world, other places, other temples were using, and in India, were using this press release. They were copying and pasting it to throw their own tributes in their own countries. We saw it in different languages. And she just came out like in her pajamas and coffee and did this on a Saturday morning in the kitchen. It took an hour. But we live in this kind of world where everything you want to do is just so possible and so scalable. It was amazing. So this is also one of my favorites. So this guy, George Bush talked yesterday about that, was it an orthopedic surgeon who wanted to go to Iraq? That was amazing. So we've got a guy who I heard about in our community, who I did not know, who is a heart surgeon, and without telling anybody, doesn't tell his wife and kids, his kids were older, married, but doesn't tell anyone, goes to the local recruiting office, prominent heart surgeon in Dallas, nice cushy life, goes to the local recruiting office and signs up for 5 years. He didn't even think they'd take him because of his age, but it turns out they took him. And he went to Iraq. He served 4 tours in 5 years. That was absolutely amazing. I mean, this is a guy that didn't have to go. He told his partners at the practice, don't pay me a dime while I'm gone. I'm going to go out there and help save these kids' lives. So I'm having lunch with my friends, and I got this camera in my pocket reminding me, Dave, you got to make something happen. What are you doing, hotshot? What do you got going on? And don't forget about that box of Thanksgiving questions. So I said, guys, why don't we throw a tribute for this guy? Why don't we throw a party? We're going to honor a local hero. Shouldn't we all honor a local hero? I mean, is that such a terrible, I mean, you know, I got to tell you, it's one of the greatest things and most selfless things I ever did was throw a party for a guy I don't know. And so we went to his wife. We said, you know what? You make your list of 125 people. That's what the room will hold. We're going to throw the whole party. We're going to do everything. So we threw this dinner. And the invitation says we're honoring Jerry Groden for his contributions to his country, and we're honoring Miss Julie Groden for supporting her husband and support of her country, because we didn't want to leave her out. They had 125 people. Now, before I show you this next photo, this is the room being set up. This was a bunch of guys planning the party, and I'll tell you right now, as a guy planning a party, I didn't think about chair covers. I don't plan parties. So this is the room. I was like, this room looks a little weird. So I can't put my finger on it, but something doesn't look right. I'm like, wait a minute. These chairs look a little awkward here. So we start making phone calls, and it's just way too late to do anything about it. So a little bit embarrassing. But an unbelievable event. The guy spoke for an hour and a half to 125 of his friends and family that came to honor him from around the world. And all this happened because I had a camera in my pocket reminding me, take action on my thought. I should honor a local hero. I don't have to know the guy. That's the kind of person I am. And that's the kind of person that if something were to happen to me tomorrow, those are the kind of pictures I want in my Year of the Life journal. So my kids and future generations would know who I was, because that's who I am. Then you can do fun things too, like you can go to galas. There's a gala in Dallas every week for something, and they're easy to go to, and they're a lot of fun. Giving blood. I've always wanted to give blood. I never had. No one wants to voluntarily get pricked in the arm with a needle, okay? Just, your car doesn't beam there like it does to Starbucks, okay? But I managed to do it 5 or 6 times that year, and it was great. I should be doing that. Why not? What's so hard about giving blood? They give you free stuff, cool t-shirts, snacks, and I learned the word phlebotomist. That's the girl that takes the blood from you and hurts you. Offset your carbons. You're going to look for things to do at 9 o'clock at night. I'm like, why don't I offset my carbons? My car gets 10 miles to the gallon. And the Prius people are always giving me the finger. So I just go online, I offset my carbons, and now I give them the finger. It's like, you know what? I still put less in the air than you do. It's so easy to do these things. So one of my most kind of fun and like things I'll never forget kind of event was we go to Acapulco every year on vacation. That's my wife and I in the middle with these 2 other couples. And there's an orphanage next door, and my wife, being the most thoughtful person that she is, calls an orphanage every year in Acapulco, finds out the ages and the genders of the kids, and we bring the kids a bunch of gifts. Gifts, clothes, things that they need, all the essentials at the orphanage. And the women are always in charge, the 3 women are always in charge of getting the list and buying the stuff for all the kids. So this year, instead of watching reality TV on the sofa, I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I call the orphanage. I find out the list of kids, boy, girl, age, everything. Make the list of things we need. And I go out to Walmart, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, whatever it was, and I'm buying this list of things. I've got 3 or 4 carts roped together, buying shorts, underwear, flip-flops, you name it, toothpaste, everything. So I get to the line at Walmart. It's about 11 o'clock at night. And there's the conveyor belt with my first batch of stuff. There's probably about 100 pairs of socks on there. You can see some toothpaste up front and shampoo. So this woman in front of me looks at that conveyor belt and says, that looks a little weird. That's a lot of stuff. I said, well, it's for this orphanage in Mexico. They're really nice kids, and we bring this stuff when we go on vacation. So she starts to cry a little bit. Like she gets really touched and like really choked, you know? So she opens up her purse and doesn't grab a $20 bill out of this Rockefeller bankroll. She opens up her purse, she kind of dumps some stuff out, looks through the cracks, and pulls out a crumbled up $20 bill with crumbs in it. And she's like, you know what? I want the kids to have this. It's my last 20 bucks, but I want the kids to have this. And trust me, this was her last 20 bucks. And I was really touched. I was like, my God, really? Like she's giving me, I'm a total stranger. She's gonna give me, I was dressed in shorts. And what? But so she gives me her last $20. And then her friend right behind her says, you know what? She opens up her purse. And then she says, you know, I don't have anything. I wish I had something for these kids. I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. You're all in my picture of the day. Come close together, and I'm going to take this shot. And they were my picture of the day for that day. It showed me about the goodness in the world. Now, I could have been home watching to see who'd get eliminated on The Biggest Loser. I could have done that. I could have. I wanted to, but I didn't. I got off my ass, and I made something happen. Okay? And that's the kind of person that I really believe I am inside. But you get so caught up in the easy routine of your everyday life that we forget to do these things. And it was truly an amazing experience. So here's my event, the Mumbai event that we threw. Truly amazing moment. Had it not been for a camera in my pocket, on that very night, the room would have gone from this to this. It would have never happened. It's not like somebody else would have done it. It would have never happened. The Dead Sea, absolutely beautiful. Great picture, would have looked like this. Okay, not quite the same. Picking up your kids from school in an RV, priceless moment in my life, great experience, gone. Never would have happened. And of course, the picture that I think my kids will have framed in their room for years and years to come, being in the kids' school playing a leotard, would have looked like this. Okay. Not bad. I don't know if it would have stood the test of time. So truly a big, big difference just by using a camera to create meaningful events every day. And the cool thing is, if you're analytical, and I know none of us business people are, I had one guy say to me that these remind him of a bar chart. These columns. So if you're an analytical person, you'll enjoy categorizing your photos and see exactly how you live your life. And I learned that I lived 26% of my life in business moments, 68% in personal, in terms of how I was able to live my life, right? When I categorized my photos. And I had about 6% in spiritual and helping other people. Now, this is the opposite of how I spend my time. I spent 70% of my time that year. I spent 70% that year at work. Yet I managed to create almost 70% of my meaningful moments personally with my family. That was not an accident. That happens through effort, attempt, and challenging yourself. So what I'm going to ask you to do right now, you've all got your bucket list that you wrote out, I hope. Take 5 minutes, or 2 minutes. Touch up your bucket list, make sure you didn't leave anything out. And then there's a little diagram over there, a little circle, you've got your own lens. And ask yourself, if I were to do this picture-worthy day challenge for 1 year, at the end of that year, what would I want my pie chart to look like? So go ahead and fill in your own lens and write that out. Put in a little pie chart, what percentage of your life you'd like to live, doing what, where, with who. Just take a minute, and I'll show you something. We're going to do something really neat with it. Has everybody written stuff in their bucket list? Has everyone done it? Hello? Okay. All right, touch up your bucket list, write out your pie chart. Now, don't say I didn't give you enough time to write your bucket list because I told you 30 minutes ago. All right, so here's what we're going to do with our page now. I'm going to ask you all to take out your phone. Take out your phone. Everyone take out your phone. I know you've already got it off and in your briefcase. No one's checked their phone in the last 4 hours. But if it's within reach, please take it out. And I want you to take a picture of that half of the page where you wrote your bucket list and you filled out your pie chart. I want you to take a picture of that. Can everyone do that, please? Take a picture of it. Go ahead. I want to see more phones, more pictures. And here's what I'm going to invite you to do with that. Send an email right now. As soon as you take that picture, I want you to send the picture to the email address at the top of the page, and that's me@pictureworthyday.com. And in the subject line for that email, I want you to write, if you were to start doing the Picture Worthy Day challenge, what day would you start, right? So May 13th, you just write 05/13 or 14. Just write down what day you'd start, okay? In the subject line. And when you email that picture to that address with that date in the subject line, our system that we built, pinky on the mouth, our system that we built is going to automatically catalog that photograph and send it back to you every single year on the day that you put in the subject line for the rest of your life. We're never going to let you forget the things you always said you wanted to do and the person you always wanted to be. Because not everyone can think about where they put their bucket list, right? So go ahead and do that now. And then if you ever want to see the picture that you sent, you just send an email to SEE@pictureworthyday.com. And we will email you back that photo. So you can always see your bucket list anytime you want. Let's hear it for always having your bucket list handy. Let's make it happen. So is anybody going to start doing Picture Worthy Day? Is anyone here going to start it? I got one hand. Is anyone going to start today? Anyone? Right here? Come on up. I got something for you. You come on up. I'm going to wish you all the best. And I'm going to give you a special gift.
Hey, somebody take a picture.
Oh, don't worry. We got that covered. We've got a brand new Casio Excellum. Let's hear it. We're going to capture all your picture-worthy moments. And we're not going to hesitate. We're going to start right here and right now. We've got a nice 2 gig card in there. Capture plenty of stuff. And we're going to ask Jeremy, since he's sitting front and center, to take your very first photo. There you go, big button, buddy. You and I are going to pose. Jeremy, you just tell us where it's going to look best. Is this good? Cheese. Frame. Oh, you want to do? You want to do one like? You want to do the frame with us? So here, we're going to do one like this. This is the frame. No. Fingers down. Fingers. We're framing. Cheese. All right. Let's hear it. Jeff, way to go. Make it happen. Make it happen. Here you go. Take your box, your warranty card. You want a bag? Yeah. You got it. Let's hear it for Jeff. Way to go, Jeff. We look forward to following your journey and learning about all your picture-worthy moments that you create in your life. Because I promise you, you'll have a lot of fun and you'll learn a lot. And just a couple of tips. For those of you that are doing this, whether it's today or tomorrow or whenever it is, the biggest tip I can give you is do not try to do it with your phone. Because your phone will never serve as a constant daily reminder that you have to create something meaningful in your life today. It's a phone. It's a reminder that you have to text message your friends, but not that you have to do something meaningful. And I think one of the things that made this project so possible for me to do and finish was I had that constant daily reminder. It was sitting in my pocket. It was sitting next to my phone. It was always there. And it was red. And it was a constant reminder. It's like, damn, I got to do something today too? Come on. So do not try to do it with the phone. A couple of people have tried. It's the quickest way not to succeed in this that I've found so far. Do it with a separate camera. And if you look on the back of your program, you'll find a little tip sheet, a couple of helpful tips. Some are obvious, some are not so obvious. But things like when you take out your disk to download your pictures, leave the camera door open. So the next time you go to pick it up, you remember that you took the disk out. I can't tell you all the times I went out to take a picture and I was like, uh-oh, problem here. So do that. So these are tips I found the hard way. And I found these tips through doing a total. In my effort to capture 365 photos, I actually took 9,000 photos in 1 year. Thank you. 9,000 photos in 1 year. So these days you can go out and get a 1 terabyte drive for $100 and just dump everything on there. Don't make any effort to delete the ones that aren't perfect. Just save them all. It's a lot of fun. So some other benefits. Having a camera in your pocket for 1 year, never leaving your side, is you can capture moments that you never expected to happen, or that you could never capture if you didn't have that camera at that time. For instance, my kid rides a bike for the very first time. After a week or two of practicing, she finally gets off on her own, and she starts to pedal. I'm like, oh my God, she's doing it, I can't believe it. And then I realized I've got the camera in my pocket. By this time, I had taken over 5,300 photos. I was a master. Put my hand in the pocket, my hand automatically goes into the strap. I'm turning it on with my thumb as I'm pulling it out. The lens is protruded by the time it gets to here. A snap, and I can go back in about 5 seconds. There it is, picture 5,354. I took this photo, turned the camera off, got it back in my pocket, and caught her before she fell. That's a hero. Thank you. Great photo, lots of fun to get it, and there she was, first time ever, so it was really great. Another unintended consequence of getting the most out of every day is my wife and I on vacation in Costa Rica. This was our 10-year anniversary, and as luck would have it, this was the day of the biggest fight of our life. Has that ever happened to you? Like it's the most special kind of event, and now you're in the biggest fight of your life. You're like, oh crap, how did I do this? How do I back out of it? I don't understand. And we're sitting by the pool in Costa Rica, fighting, having a nice, miserable time on our 10th anniversary, and I'm an idiot. So I said, you know what, babe? I'm having a great time. Like, this fighting is fun. We're both pretty good at it. I said, I'm going to go take a cooking class. She says, a cooking class? What the hell are you talking about, you idiot? I said, no, I've got to do something picture-worthy today, and I'm not going to have another day of sitting by the pool doing nothing. I'm not going to have it. I've got to go do something picture-worthy. How many people have ever even looked at that brochure they give you at the hotel of the day's activities, like the movie room? I mean, who does that in Costa Rica? But now, for the first time, I'm picking up the program. I'm like, all right, I got to map out every day, because I'm not going to just have pictures of the ocean. So this day was cooking class. We made empanadas. So my wife says, you know what? Screw it, I'll go with you. I mean, we're just fighting. I might as well go learn how to make an empanada. We go to the cooking class, and as you can see, we had a great time. It was absolutely a blast. We did not fight again the entire trip. In fact, we did the opposite of fighting again the entire trip. It was a blast, and we never thought about that fight again. And we reflected on the difference it made trying to do something meaningful every day instead of just sitting around doing nothing, and how this was a totally unintended consequence of doing that. So it was a lot of fun and a neat little experience and a nice little side benefit of doing this little program. And there I am on my 40th birthday, so 365 days later, with my wife and kids, blowing out the candles and reflecting on my year of doing this. And after a year, I had a year of a day in my life. And that's 365 days of my life, if you don't mind. It was a lot of work. Thank you. It is not easy. It is not easy to build a journal that you'll be proud of. In the first 14 to 20 days, you start running out of stuff to do. You're like, wow, I've got 345 more days to go. There's no way I'm going to make it. And what I can tell you right now, and this is, so I've been giving this presentation now for about a month. I just started. I've done it. This is my 4th time, I think. And I've got a lot of people doing it already. And they all come back with the same observation in the first 14 to 21 days. They realize they live this kind of life of like utility, like they don't have a lot going on, they're like a prisoner of their routine. And that if you want to make something happen, if you choose not to give up when you realize that you're a prisoner of a routine, if you choose to make something happen in your life and create meaningful events, what you realize really quickly is it takes attempt and challenge. They don't happen by themselves. You have to make these things happen. And you start joining groups like meetup.com and joining organizations and signing up for charities and meeting people and going through your bucket list and figuring out how you're going to do it in a year. Because you realize really quickly that if you don't, nothing meaningful or very few meaningful, truly meaningful things will happen. So for those of you who are thinking about doing this, I invite you to do it. I think you'll learn a lot. I think it'll be amazing, and I'd certainly love to keep in touch with you as you go. So after a year, I built this journal for my kids, future generations. I looked back on the year, I said, you know, it worked. Like, I lived a life of no regrets. I seized the day, like if I was going to die tomorrow, I lived every day to the fullest. I've defeated that threatening box of Thanksgiving questions. And most importantly was that if something were to happen to me tomorrow, I wouldn't be this blurry memory to my kids. They'd know who I was. And that was really important to me. So that's why I did it. That's what I got out of it. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And I thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
The stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas.
I might have about 3 minutes if anyone has a question at all. Does anyone have a question at this point? I see one over there, yeah?
So on that schedule, then, still every day?
Okay, great question. So am I still doing it every day? No. No. No, 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 no. So for me, it chronicled kind of the culmination of my entire life. It all boiled down to that year, because you can't go creating things that didn't exist or weren't on their way to happening, right? Like you didn't have the propensity to do. So I did that from 39 to 40. And on my birthday, I put that camera down. I never touched it again. Now I just use my phone for here and there things. But my goal is to do it every 5 years. So 39 to 40, 44 to 45, 49 to 50. Knowing that, hey, when I look back at these pictures, here's all the flaws in my life. You know, I gave myself a good solid B. Despite all the hard work I put into it, I could have done more. So I'm saying, okay, what were the things stopping me from being able to achieve more? And what do I have to do today, now, so that 5 years from now when I do my next picture-worthy day project, that's even more of the person that I want to be and leave behind and things of that nature. So yeah, so that's why I stopped. It's something I'll be doing every 5 years. Yeah. Anyone else have any questions? Thoughts, questions? I see one in the back, yeah? Okay. Yeah, so she's asking if I just did pictures or if I wrote about it as well. So it's a lot of work doing pictures and writing about it. But the real value is in writing the stories that you leave behind, right? So I wrote the pictures, I wrote stories, and I still have to go back and think back about some of the stories and see if I need to add to them or what lessons I think those stories should represent. So I think the best value you can get out of it is if you take a picture, do it in a book, and then have a journal entry to go with it. And then you can teach your kids or future generations lessons from that. So I think it's really powerful to do both. So again, I thank you for your time. Thank you very much. Enjoy the meeting. Thanks. Thanks.
The stars at night